The alien crowd shouted and cheered under the twin suns. Strange flags waved in the air. Giant warriors stood on stone platforms, their armor shining. In the center of the arena stood one mana-human. His name was Jack Carter, a former soldier. From Earth, he looked around, breathing heavily, blood on his hands, dust on his face. He had just won a fight he never asked for. The alien rulers had thrown him into a trial by combat, after accusing him of entering their territory without permission. He was supposed to die, but instead he won. Now the alien council stood before him. They wore long robes, their faces hidden behind metal masks. The middle one raised a hand to silence the crowd. "Human," the leader said in a deep, cold voice. "You have survived. You are strong. For that, we offer a gift." Jack narrowed his eyes. "A gift?" The council moved aside, and two guards stepped forward, dragging something behind them. No. Someone. It was a girl, tall, with violet skin and glowing silver eyes. Her hands were chained, and her dress was torn. She walked with her head high, but her body shook. Her face was full of anger, not fear. The crowd began to laugh and whistle. "She is yours now," the council leader said. "This is Arya, daughter of traitors. Once noble, now nothing. You may use her as you please. This is your reward, or punishment. That is your choice." Jack looked at the girl. She stared back at him with fire in her eyes. Then she spit on his face. The crowd gasped. The guards moved to hit her, but Jack raised a hand. "Don't," he said calmly. He wiped his face and looked at her again. She spoke for the first time. Her voice was sharp like a blade. "I'd rather die than serve a human," Arya hissed. Jack didn't speak. He just stared at her. Not with hate, not with anger, but with something else. She didn't expect that. The council handed him a key and walked away, leaving them alone in the center of the arena. Jack sighed and turned to Arya. "Come on." She didn't move. "Look," he said, softer now. "I didn't ask for this. I don't want a slave." She raised her chin. "Then leave me here." He looked around. The crowd was still watching. "If I do that, they'll kill you," he said. Arya didn't answer. He took a step closer. "So come with me. I won't chain you." She stared at him, waiting, watching. But finally she took one step forward. Then another. That night they were taken to a small house at the edge of the alien city. Jack unlocked her chains and threw them aside. "You're free inside here," he said. "I won't touch you. I won't order you." She didn't thank him. She just sat in the corner, silent. Jack placed food on the table. "Bread, fruit, and water. You should eat," he said. She didn't move. He nodded and sat down across from her, slowly eating by himself. The silence was heavy. Later, he gave her a blanket and showed her the bed. "You can sleep here. I'll sleep on the floor." Still, she said nothing. That night, while Jack slept on the cold floor, Arya stood in the dark, watching him. Her eyes were full of questions, confusion, even fear. Why hadn't he tried to hurt her? Why hadn't he chained her again? She picked up a small knife from the kitchen shelf. Her hands shook. She walked slowly to where he slept. She stood over him. He opened his eyes. She froze. He looked at the knife, then at her. And then he nodded. "If you want to kill me," he said quietly, "go ahead." Her eyes widened. "No one owns you," he said. "Not even me." She held the knife tight. Her heart beat like a drum, but she didn't stab him. She dropped the knife, turned away, and sat down in the corner again. Jack closed his eyes and went back to sleep. Arya stayed awake all night. Arya sat by the window, watching the sky turn purple. She hadn't slept. Not even for a moment. The knife still lay on the floor where she dropped it. And the human? He was snoring softly on the cold ground, just like he said he would. She didn't understand him. No man, human, or alien had ever given her a choice before. She should have killed him. So why didn't she? She looked down at her hands. They were shaking, not from fear, from confusion. From something deeper. Suddenly, Jack groaned and turned in his sleep. Arya quickly stood up and stepped back like she'd been caught doing something wrong. Her breathing sped up. He opened one eye. Still here? He said, his voice sleepy and calm. I should have left, she said coldly. But you didn't, he replied. A pause. Then he sat up and rubbed his neck. I don't know what kind of life you had before, but here, you're not a slave. I don't want that. Arya narrowed her eyes. You're lying. No, he said, standing slowly. But I won't stop you. If you want to run, the door is open. He walked to the table, picked up a fruit, and bit into it. She stared at the open door. It was really open. No guards. No locks, just freedom, but something stopped her. What if this was a trick? What if the moment she stepped out, someone was waiting? I won't run, she said. Good, Jack said. Because I was going to make tea. Arya blinked. He was joking. He acted like this was normal, like she was just a guest. She sat down slowly, across the table from him. She didn't touch the food. She didn't smile. But she didn't leave either. For the next few days, she refused to obey any command. Not because she hated him, but because she didn't know how to trust. If he said, eat, she would wait hours before touching the food. If he said, she would stand longer, just to show she wasn't under his control. But Jack never shouted, never forced her. One morning, she found him washing the floor with a bucket of water and a towel. She stood in the corner, arms crossed. You could just tell me to do it, she said. Jack smiled. Why would I? You just ignore me. She looked away. That night, she had a strange dream. She was back in her palace, before everything fell apart. Her mother, her sister, the light, the laughter, all gone now. Her chains in the dream were tighter. Her heart felt heavier. She woke up sweating. Then she heard something outside the house, a deep growl. She froze. More growls. Then loud scratching. Something was trying to break through the back door. She rushed to the corner and picked up the knife. Jack jumped up too, grabbing his rifle from under the bed. Stay behind me, he whispered. Arya's heart raced. What is it? Desert. Crawler, he said. Big one. The door cracked. The wood began to splinter. Without thinking, Arya grabbed another blade from the table and stood beside him. He looked at her, surprised. You fight? I'm not helpless, she replied coldly. The creature crashed through the door. It was ugly tall, with sharp teeth and thick black skin. Jack fired once, missed. The creature lunged. Arya moved fast, slicing its side with the blade. It roared and turned to her. Jack tackled it from behind, stabbing it in the eye with a metal rod. It collapsed. Silence. Heavy breathing. Blood on the floor. Then laughter. Arya looked at Jack, shocked. He was laughing. You're insane, she said. You're the one who ran at a death beast with a kitchen knife. She couldn't help it. She laughed too, just a little, only for a second. But it felt strange. Warm. Real. Later, as they fixed the door, Jack looked at her and said, You're not what they say you are. She paused. What do they say I am? Jack's eyes met hers. They say you're broken. She didn't answer, but she thought about that word. Broken. Maybe once. But not now, not anymore. Arya found the box hidden under the bed. It was made of old wood and sealed tight. Dust covered the lid. She wasn't looking for anything. She was just sweeping. But now, her fingers touched the lock. She looked over her shoulder. Jack was outside, chopping firewood, quickly. She opened the box. Inside were only a few things, a folded piece of paper, a broken silver ring, and a small holopad. She touched the holopad. It lit up. A voice began to play. If you find this, Arya, I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen. They blamed us. But it wasn't our plan. She froze. It was her sister's voice. Her heart stopped. She dropped the holopad as if it burned her skin. Jack walked in just then and saw the box open. He didn't yell. He didn't ask why. He just picked up the holopad, turned it off, and quietly said, "So now you know." Araya's throat was dry. You knew who I was?" Jack nodded slowly. "Since the day they gave you to me." "Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because I wanted you to tell me when you were ready." Arya sat down. Her legs felt weak. For years, she believed her family betrayed the alien king. That's why her name was stripped, her title erased, her life destroyed. But if her sister's voice was real, if that message was true, then she was punished for something. She never did. I didn't even get to say goodbye to her, Arya whispered. They took me from my cell and handed me to you like I was a gift. Jack sat across from her, quiet. He didn't try to comfort her. He just let her speak. I hated you, she said. I know, Jack replied. I wanted to kill you. I remember. But now, she looked at her hands. I don't know what I feel anymore. Jack stood and poured her water. That's okay. You don't have to know right now. She drank slowly, her mind spinning. Later that day, they walked outside the city walls. The guards didn't bother them anymore. People whispered when they passed, but no one stopped them. Arya looked at the burning red sky and asked, Why? Do you stay here, among people who treat you like dirt? Jack shrugged. I have no home to go back to. What about Earth? He smiled sadly. Earth stopped being my home a long time ago. She watched him carefully. For the first time, she wondered, what was his story? That night, she sat near the fire, holding the broken silver ring from the box. What is this? She asked. Jack looked up. My wife's ring. She died in the war. I'm sorry. He nodded. You remind me of her sometimes. Arya raised an eyebrow. She was angry? She was brave, he said softly. A moment passed in silence. Then Arya whispered, I want to find out the truth. About my family, about what really happened. Jack nodded. Then we'll find it. Together. Arya looked at him, surprised. Why would you help me? He smiled. Because you're not my slave, you're my equal. For the first time in years, Arya didn't feel cold. For the first time, she felt like maybe she wasn't alone. The first time Arya laughed. It scared her. It slipped out like a mistake, quick, soft, unplanned. She had never heard her own laughter since the day they took her crown. Jack had tripped over a bucket while trying to teach her how to cook eggs. His face landed in the fire dust, and he came up with black smoke on his nose. He looked so confused, so serious, and suddenly she laughed. Then her smile vanished. Her hand covered her mouth as if she had said something wrong. Jack looked at her in surprise. Was that a laugh? No, she said quickly. He grinned. Sounded like one. She turned away. It was not. But her cheeks were warm. It felt strange. But not bad. She was changing, and she didn't know how to stop it. The next few days were quiet, but not in the old, heavy way. It was a new silence. A calm one. Jack built a small garden behind the house. Arya watched from the steps, arms crossed, pretending not to care. He struggled with the tools, making uneven rows. You're doing it wrong, she finally said. Then come show me. She hesitated. Then she stood, walked over, took the tool from his hands, and began to fix the mess. Worked side by side without speaking. But something passed between them, not words, but trust. Later, she saw a bird struggling in the dirt, its wing broken. She picked it up gently. Jack came over. Poor thing. I think I can help it, Arya said. But I'll need cloth, warm water, and silence. He raised an eyebrow. You're giving me orders now? She smirked. Do you obey? He laughed, only sometimes. Together, they patched the bird's wing and placed it in a small basket by the fire. That night, Jack said quietly, "You're different now." "No." She said, "I'm just remembering who I was before they broke me." He nodded. "Good. I like that version of you." Then, one cold evening, she couldn't sleep. She walked into the main room and found Jack sitting by the fire, polishing a strange object, a photo frame. Inside it was a picture. A woman with brown skin and bright eyes stood beside Jack, a little boy sat on his shoulders. Arya stared. "Your family?" Jack nodded. "My wife and son. They're gone." She didn't ask how. She just sat down beside him. He didn't speak either. They just watched the fire burn lower, the quiet between them full of unspoken pain and understanding. One morning, Arya noticed something outside, an alien child throwing rocks at their door. She opened it. The child froze. "You're the human's pet," he shouted, then ran away laughing. Jack found her sitting silently afterward. She wasn't angry. She looked tired. "They'll never see me as anything else," she said. Jack sat beside her. "I don't care what they see," he said. "I see you." She didn't answer, but she didn't pull away when he touched her hand. That night, she did something she never imagined. She placed her blanket on the floor beside his. He looked up. "Everything okay?" She lay down, not looking at him. "I don't want to feel alone tonight," she whispered. He said nothing, but he stayed awake until her breathing grew soft, calm, and he smiled in the dark, because now he wasn't alone either. The birds stopped singing that morning. Arya noticed it first. She stood in the garden, holding a basket of vegetables when the wind changed. It smelled like metal, sharp and cold. Her skin tingled. Her instincts screamed something was wrong. She turned slowly and looked toward the hills. Shadows were moving, not animals. Soldiers. Inside the house, Jack cleaned his tools and whistled a quiet tune. He heard the door swing open and looked up. Arya stood there, pale, her eyes wide. "They're coming," she said, "with weapons." Jack didn't ask who. He didn't have to. He grabbed his rifle, checked the battery, and nodded. "How many?" "2. "Many. Then we run." But Arya didn't move. "No," she said. "They're not here for you. They're here for me." Jack frowned. "What?" "They know I've been speaking against the council. They know you've been helping me." Her voice shook. "They will call it rebellion." Jack walked to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm not leaving you. You should. Not a chance." They packed fast supplies, medicine, a small map. The desert was harsh, but safer than the council's punishment. As they stepped outside, Jack paused. There was a noise in the air, a low hum. He looked up. 3 black ships hovered in the sky, dropping metal pods. The ground shook. The chase had already begun. Arya ran like she hadn't in years, her feet slicing across the hot sand. Jack followed, rifle on his back, breath steady. "Keep going." Behind them, one of the pods opened. A search drone shot out, flying low, scanning fast. Jack fired once. Boom. The drone exploded in flames, but 2 more replaced it. "They're not here to arrest us," Jack said. "They're here to erase us." Arya turned to him, panting. "Then we fight." He looked at her, surprised. "You sure?" She pulled a blade from her boot. "I'm tired of running." They found a narrow canyon to hide inside. Jack set traps. Arya stood watch. That night, as they rested behind a rock wall, Jack looked at her and whispered, "You didn't have to stay." She stared at the stars. "Neither did you," she replied. A moment of silence. Then a voice echoed through the canyon, cold and cruel. "Give us the girl, and the human may live." It was the council's voice, amplified, emotionless. Arya stood up slowly, but Jack grabbed her arm. "Don't. I won't let you die because of me," she said. "I won't let you die either." They looked at each other. 2 fugitives, 2 souls tied together by pain, by trust, and something more they couldn't name yet. Arya walked to the edge of the canyon, held her blade high, and shouted back, "You gave me to him as punishment. But he made me stronger. You didn't break me. You made me free." Then she threw a flare into the sky. A trap. The ships moved closer, following the light, and Jack was ready. With one click, his traps exploded, blinding light, smoke, sand. Council soldiers screamed in the chaos. Jack and Arya slipped away into the night, wounded, tired, but alive. As they reached a safe cave, Jack leaned against the wall and slid down, blood on his side. Arya rushed to him. "You're hurt," he chuckled. "Just a scratch." She tore cloth from her sleeve and pressed it to his wound. "Why do you keep risking your life for me?" she asked. He looked at her, eyes soft. "Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being a punishment." Arya blinked. And for the first time, she felt something new in her chest. Hope. The cave dripped with silence. Jack lay against the stone wall, pale from blood loss. Arya pressed a hot cloth to his side, her hands trembling. She had faced beasts, drones, and death itself. But now she was afraid of one thing: losing him. "Stay awake," she whispered. "Don't sleep, not yet." Jack forced a weak smile. "I'm just resting my eyes." "You sound like an old man," she said, trying to joke, but her voice cracked. He looked at her. "And even in pain," he said softly, "you're safe now. That's all that matters." "No," she whispered. "Not if it means you die." Suddenly, there was a sharp sound, rocks tumbling outside the cave. Arya grabbed her blade and rushed to the entrance. In the moonlight, a scout drone hovered quietly, scanning the area. She ducked down and held her breath. It moved on. But she knew the truth now. They weren't safe. Not yet. She returned inside and knelt beside Jack. "I'm not running anymore," she said. "We end this." Jack opened one eye. "You sound like a soldier." She tightened the cloth on his wound. "Then, teach me how to fight like one." For the next day, Jack guided her, half awake in pain, but still a warrior. He showed her how to aim a rifle, how to move with silence, how to think like a soldier. "You have a fire inside you," he said once, watching her stance. "It's your fault," she replied. "You fed it." As night fell again, Arya climbed the ridge and looked toward the enemy camp. The council forces had set up a forward base, tents, lights, energy shields. They were preparing to march deeper into the desert. "They're hunting us like animals," she muttered. Then she saw something strange: a prisoner cage outside the base. Inside it, a child. Not human. Alien. One of her own kind. Captured. Used as bait. Arya's jaw clenched. "They never change." She returned to Jack. "They're hurting innocents now." He nodded weakly. "They always do when they're afraid." "Then we hit them first," she said. Jack looked at her like she was someone new, and yet someone he'd always known. He handed her his backup blaster. "Don't miss." That night, Arya moved like a shadow. She cut through the desert wind, silent and deadly. At the edge of the enemy camp, she struck, destroying the power generator with a single shot. The lights went out. Panic spread. Jack, hidden on a nearby hill, fired from the dark, covering her escape. Arya rushed to the cage, broke the lock, and pulled the child to safety. Alarms blared. Soldiers shouted, but they were too slow. Arya vanished into the shadows with the child, faster than fear. Back at the cave, Jack sat up weakly as Arya returned. "You did it?" he asked. She placed the sleeping child beside him. "Yes," she said. "And I'm not done yet." Jack smiled with pride. "You've changed." Arya looked at him, her eyes burning like twin stars. "No, I just remembered who I really am." She sat beside him and whispered, "And I won't leave you. Not now, not ever." That night, they didn't speak much, but their hands found each other in the dark, wounded, hunted, tired, but together. And ready for one final stand. The child's soft breathing was the only sound in the cave. Arya didn't sleep. She sat with her back against the wall, holding Jack's rifle across her lap. Her eyes stayed open, focused on the cave. Entrance, the wind outside, and the darkness beyond. She had once been a princess, then a prisoner, then a punishment, but now she was something else. She was a protector, and no one was going to take that from her. Jack stirred beside her, groaning from his wounds. He looked pale, weaker than before. "You should have left me behind," he said quietly. Eriya turned to him, eyes hard. "And I should have let you chain me the first day, right?" He gave a weak chuckle. "You were impossible. You loved it." He smiled. "Still do." Suddenly, a light flashed outside the cave, then another. Voices echoed low, sharp, in the alien tongue. Arya stood and stepped forward. She could see their armor now, the Council's elite guards. 10 of them. They weren't here to capture anyone. They were here to end something. Arya picked up a flare from her belt, lit it, and tossed it outside. She stepped into the red light. Unarmed, the guards raised their weapons. She raised her voice. "I am Arya of House Valen. You threw me to die. You gave me as punishment. But I lived. I learned. I chose." The commander shouted, "Step back, traitor." She didn't move. "I was never a slave to him," she said. "But I gave him my trust, my heart, and now I stand as his equal." A pause. Then she reached behind her and pulled out a hidden trigger. Jack's final trap. She pressed it. Boom. The desert exploded behind the guards, rocks falling, sand bursting upward, fire chasing the wind. In the chaos, Arya dashed forward, blade in hand, fast and furious. The guards fought back, but she moved like a ghost with fire in her blood. One by one, they fell when the dust cleared. She stood alone, alive, breathing hard, but victorious. Back inside the cave, Jack looked up in disbelief. "You came back," he whispered. She dropped her weapon and knelt beside him. "I never left." He reached out, and she took his hand. "I think I'm in love with you," he said. Arya smiled. "You're a little slow, human." Weeks later, after the Council's power began to crumble and whispers of rebellion spread, something unexpected happened. Arya stood in front of her people, not as a prisoner, but as a leader. Beside her, in formal clothes that didn't quite fit him, stood Jack. The people waited. Eriya spoke clearly. "I was given to this man as punishment, but he never treated me like property. He gave me freedom when no one else did, and in that freedom, I found something worth more than a throne." She turned to Jack. Then, to everyone's shock, she knelt. "I choose him," she said. "Not as a master, not as a jailer, but as my husband." They were married under the twin suns, with no chains, no titles, and no fear, just 2 hands holding tightly, one heart beating with another. And behind them, the child they saved ran through the flowers, laughing. Arya looked at Jack, eyes shining. "I was never yours to own," she said. Jack nodded. "No, but you were always mine to love." And that made all the difference.